At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Steven, I'm such a dumbass. I mean, I'm not really a dumbass, but I'm a dumbass because I sold a Paris print yesterday or last night. So I knew coming in this morning, I'm like, I'm going to make an extra print because I got to get this print in the mail. So then I go ahead, I turn the printer on, I put the paper in, I select the picture, I print it, it sits here. After lunch, I get ready to wrap it up. And I'm like, how did I end up with Artemis prints? I needed an Eiffel Tower print, not Artemis prints. So now I'm sitting here with 2 Artemis prints like a dumbass when I needed 1 Paris print. First world problems. All right, bye.
Steven, before I talk about my voicemail, I want to go off the rails for a second because I had a really vivid dream last night.
A lucid dream?
It was just vivid as shit. My friend Troy was there. We were at some kind of after-hours club.
Was there any wetness in your pants?
Let me check. Hold on. No wetness in my pants. But I did get a stiffy. So we're at this after-hours clubby thing, and like Malcolm Kenyatta's there, and these other people are there.
Was I there?
And you weren't there. You were busy.
Damn.
You were busy.
I'm even working in your dreams, huh?
There was all different types of things going. No, I wasn't shooting, but I don't know what kind of club this was. And then Troy was like, you know, if I really wanted, I could have those 2 women over there. They would want to go with me. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I'm not like wearing a lot of clothes for some reason, so I'm cold.
Well, that's normal though.
No, and then Troy leaves to go home, and I don't know how I'm going to get home, and it's like 3 a.m, and then I'm worried about like Uber or something, and then it's like 7 a.m, and I'm getting more tired, but I know I'm not going to be able to sleep, and this is all in my dream. So now I wake up a little bit, and I'm like tired as shit because I didn't sleep. I had this anxiety in my dream of not being able to, like, being up for super long. It's just super weird, man.
The worst dream that I tend to have fairly frequently, I dream that I'm working. I dream that I'm editing like a full-length video, and I literally am working in my dream, and then I wake up and I'm like, fuck, I got to work a whole other 8 hours now. That's the worst part. I used to do it all the time back in college. I would think that I'm like writing a paper, and then I would wake up and have to actually go to that class. And I'm like, oh, I literally was working in my dream.
Did you write it down? Did you really get any good ideas in your dream?
No, it's one of those things like you would remember for the first 10 minutes when you wake up, like exactly what happened, but then you kind of blur it all out after I remember my one psych teacher used to be like, you need to have a journal next to your bed so you can write down immediately what your dream was about, because people tend to forget after the first 5 minutes of waking up. I never did it, but yeah, they're the worst dreams that I tend to have is the working dreams, and I have it often.
Oh, really? I generally don't go this vivid, and this was pretty annoying and pretty annoying.
Are there certain times in your life where you're like, did I dream that, or did that really happen? Because I feel like there's certain moments in my life that I'm like, did that really happen? Or is that just a super vivid dream back in the day?
No, that's just you, Steven.
Maybe it really happened then.
Those 3 women?
4.
Isn't it 72 virgins, Steven?
What?
72 virgins. Isn't that what you get if you perpetrate I shouldn't say it, but perpetrate 9/11? Isn't that what they were promised? 72 virgins?
Oh, I have
martyrdom?
No idea. Something like that, yeah.
You don't know this? You haven't studied it? You haven't looked it up?
No, sorry, I have not. I tend to choose my free time to do something else.
I just love that they guarantee you're going to get 72 virgins when you die, and that's why you should blow yourself up. I don't know how. Why am I going off here, Steven?
You're so random.
Steven, get it on the rails. Let's talk about the voicemail. I come in yesterday, and I know I've got a print that's the Paris print because someone ordered a Paris print because I put up that video, and someone ordered one, and I'm like, all right, good. I've got one waiting, and I'm going to print 2 extras so that there's extras ready to go. I put the paper in the printer. I go sit down at my computer. I pull up the file to print. I print the file. I put it over on the table, and I leave it there because I know I've got a couple hours to do other stuff, and then I'll come back later to pack it. So I go back later to pack it, and I'm looking at the table, and I'm like, all right, I need to pack this Paris print. Like, where are the Paris prints? Well,
brain fart.
I printed the Artemis picture. I don't know, understand, maybe because I sold those originally and then I offered up the Paris next, but I don't know how the hell I went through the entire process of printing 2 Paris, two Artemis prints, thinking I'm printing Paris prints, knowing I need to print the Paris print, and I end up with 2 of those Artemis prints.
I mean, you've really only sold those 2 prints on your site, offered them for sale. So I get it. Like, it's either that or the other one. It's 50-50 chance. And your mind was just probably somewhere else and you just clicked on Artemis first and didn't realize it.
It's terrible, Steven. It's just terrible, man. I don't understand what happened.
I have it happen a lot, when I'm doing like lawn care or something and I'm spraying my lawn and I have a backpack sprayer and I have to do a certain chemical, I measure it all out and I end up measuring for the front lawn instead of the back lawn and stupid stuff like that. So it happens all the time. I'll be thinking about something else or listening to a podcast and then I'm like, shit, I just put way too much down.
Yeah, welcome to RAWtalk with Steven Eckert. How is your lawn doing, Steven?
Money green, my friend, money green.
Where can people see your lawn?
I have an Instagram account dedicated to my lawn care, but I don't know if I want to reveal it on here.
You don't? Oh,
I don't,
okay.
Because I'm going to have all like, photography and what does Jared think and blah, blah, blah.
Well, it also has your address on it, too.
No, I tried.
Or do you not show that?
I tried. Either I blur out the address if I take a picture from my mailbox or something like that, or, anytime I try not to show the address.
Well, 123 Wallaby Way, New Jersey.
What was the address in Mr. Deeds?
Oh, I don't remember
That
Mr. Deeds'
random
address.
made-up address
I
where
remember
Dr.
Finding
Pepper
Nemo.
lives.
Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Anyway, so those prints are out. Whatever. I have to do something with them. A friend that I was at NASA with asked if they could have one, so I'll probably send them one of them as a gift.
Oh, dude, I'll always take one too if you're trying to get them off your hands. But
get out of here, Steven. You don't get free shit.
I mean, clearly I hang all my prints up in my office. Can't you see behind me?
Well, I can
They're
see
not
behind
on the
you.
floor at all.
Steven, I can see behind you. This is the same floor setup for the last 4 years. Nothing has moved. That print of the bridge that I printed for you is still sitting behind you right now.
Remember, 2 weeks, Jared. Just 2 weeks. We're going to be at home.
Oh, this was
3
a
years
pandemic
later.
project?
Yeah. I never used this until it was time to work from home during the pandemic.
Oh.
I mean, eventually it was always going to be my office, but I didn't plan on it being like an actual working office at all times.
Yeah, how's the nursery coming along?
We're getting the furniture delivered in like 2 weeks, and we've got a painter on board. And
you're not doing your own painting?
Hell no. 1, I hate it, and 2, I'm not good at it. So I'd rather just... Painting's not that expensive, too. It's really not. I got my entire downstairs painted, like 1,300 square feet for like $1,200 back in the day. I don't think it's that much.
It depends on who you hire.
Of course. But this guy was pretty good. What blew my mind is he actually cut in, like edged by hand. He didn't use any tape or anything. And actually, I can't even tell. Like, it looks perfectly straight.
That's good. Did you come up with a name yet?
Yeah, we talked about this last week.
I know. Is it Shaquanda?
Jared, stop. You can't give it away.
Latita?
I have a name,
not
but again,
Latita.
I'm not going to reveal it anytime soon.
What's it start with?
I'm not. Nope. You're not going to know anything. Nobody knows.
Are you gonna,
Nobody knows. I think Nicole. I think my wife.
Of course, you know Nicole told her friends.
I think my wife's mom is the only one that knows.
What'd she think of Latita?
Stop giving it away.
Anyway, we've got stuff to talk about today.
Oh yeah,
as we always do. We've got some new stuff from Sony, new stuff from Canon rumor stuff.
Lots of gear.
We have gear talk, but we also have gear talk that I want to talk about because it kind of pisses me off. The other day, I get tired of seeing people talk about the comments on the rumor sites, the news sites are just so stupid when it comes to gear.
Oh yeah.
People start to rip things apart that aren't even out yet, that they've never used, and we talk about this all the time. And all it is gear. And I will be the first to admit that we do proliferate gear, but we showcase products and new gear products. I sound like products.
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump products. We do showcase new gear, but not in the sense of you should go out and buy everything that's new.
Of course.
And I bring this up because when I sit there in the Phillies press room or wherever I'm at with pro photographers, generally speaking, the pros don't know anything about what new came out. They may have heard something new is coming out. They may ask me some questions about what are the differences between this and that, and will it really benefit them?
They're usually using old gear, right?
Some of the pros are using old gear to shoot, and it doesn't matter for them, right? Like, it doesn't matter because they're pros and they're capable of getting great results no matter what they put in their hands. And yes, the better gear will benefit them, but 9 out of 10 times they are just there to do their job and get the shot. And no one ever, as we always say, looks at the winning picture and says, oh, did you take that with this, or what were your settings? No one cares that you shot it with a Fuji, a Pentax, a Nikon, a Canon, a Sony, an Olympus, or whatever. And it's just a snobbery of the people that aren't the actual working pros that like to rip on everybody else. It's just frustrating. It just becomes frustrating.
And they don't care until you actually reveal what you shot that with. And then you have the Nikon fanboys or the Canon fanboys saying, well, like, oh, it's out of focus because you shot with a Nikon. And Nikon saying, oh, it's weird colors because you shot with a Sony. Like, you know, if they just saw the image itself with no explanation of what gear it was shot with or any settings, then they'll just say, hey, it's a great photo, usually.
Well, most people do. I mean, it's such a small segment of our world that worries about this stuff.
But that world definitely revolves around gear, unfortunately. That we've seen, at least from views and all that kind of stuff.
It does, and it gets frustrating. But the other thing that gets frustrating is I put out that Paris video the other day. It was the longer form video of all me critiquing my photos from Paris, where I show you the good, the bad, the indifferent. I go back and I show you what made this image better than that image and why I selected that. And that's the stuff I really, really enjoy doing. I enjoy discussing and breaking down the images that I captured, showing you what worked, showing you what didn't work, what I could have done better, what the settings were sometimes, and how I would suggest doing it. And I'm also noticing that my hair looks really poofy and nice in the frame right now, Steven.
It does look pretty nice. Nice and round.
After sleeping on it for one day. That's really good poof. Yesterday was perfect poof. Today isn't terrible poof. But anyway,
when you get your next haircut, by the way?
I'm not.
Why not?
I have no desire to get a haircut, Steven.
Just trim the ends.
I don't need to trim the fucking ends.
I think you do.
You can go fuck yourself, Steven. Well, tell me what to do.
Okay.
I could do what I want.
I know you can. And you will.
And I have no desire to get my haircut. Plus, the Jewish curls look beautiful.
Today they do.
No, they're not curls right now. This is an afro. The curls are when it's down.
I mean, your hair's curly, though, even when it's poofed up.
It's gorgeous. It's very shiny and beautiful right now. You wish you had hair like this. Rock star hair. I mean, you've spent probably $5,000 or $6,000 since I've known you on getting haircuts. I've spent zero.
Probably. I'm every 5 weeks getting a haircut, fresh cut. I mean, you have to. Hey, the shorter the hair you have, obviously you got to get it more frequently.
I don't know. What do you pay? $150 a haircut now?
$150? No.
Yeah. Your barber's expensive.
He's expensive, but not that expensive. That's insane.
You don't tip him, do you?
I tip him not a lot. Let's just say that, because he does charge a decent amount.
Were you getting into tipping again, Steven? No. Oh, but by the way, speaking of tipping, I go to that place North 3rd, the one where the asshole guy was upset about me ordering water and stuff, but everybody else really isn't.
Yeah.
I noticed on the bill the other day, they took off the automatic 20%. They no longer have it there. And I said something to the guy.
What if they just took it off for you? Only on your bill specifically.
I asked first if it was everybody. And they're like, well, we never did this before, so why are we continuing to do it now? So they took it off.
There you go.
And, so they did that. So I put up, that video. I title it,
it was quite a clickbaity title. You tried, you threw everything at it.
Yeah, I did. But there's a reason. Because it's a very good video from nuggets of information for photography purposes to help people frame what they're doing. No one is posting videos like this. Still, there's very few people that take the time and share the bad images and show the good images and break down how they were shot and why they were shot and what was going through my mind.
What I really like is what we did in the past, where super long form video, like with Bedia, for example, when we include the actual EVF footage and the real time of you shooting, and you're literally pausing the video, telling your mindset of what you were thinking right then and there, what your settings were, blah, 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 any issues you had. And then you're combining the Lightroom, editing after the fact as well. That always is really interesting, because you're taking the person along the ride on your actual photo shoot from start to finish.
Seeing everything. The
you're
problem
seeing
is
everything.
Shooting the Canon and shooting the Sony
I know.
doesn't allow you to do that, which when I go to do this video guide,
of course.
So before I get to the video guide, one of the someone left a comment on this video finally not a clickbait title. And I'm like, this is a very clickbait title. Photography basics, shutter speed, aperture, ISO, composition.
But I think he was being sarcastic, right?
I don't know. It was like finally not a clickbait title. And it's like, and I was like, yeah, finally people won't watch this video, because it's when you do this title. Now, I honestly do think that in the long run, this will be a good titled video. And I think people will come back and watch it. Just like the one I did at my desk where I was drawing out the exposure with the basketball player and it was off by 3 stops that someone sent in. That video is over 1 million views now.
I don't even know what video you're talking about.
The secret photo hack to
that's why it has 1 million views.
The secret photo hack. Let's see. Let me go on the back end here.
This video will give you $1 million if you watch it. Please watch, not clickbait.
How do I
Naked
filter
people.
by?
That's why I got 1 million views.
No. Oh, I have to scroll. I have to.
We've always done the titles of like what professional photographers never show you, but I will. And it's been like an hour-long video, super long form that gets almost no views off the bat, but it's really informative to a new beginner amateur photographer, because they are really coming along for the ride for your photo shoot. You
ready for this one, Steven? This is from
Hit me with
March 26th of 2018. The secret to sharp images in low light. How to set shutter speed, aperture, ISO, parentheses, photography hack.
Every keyword you could throw at it.
1.1 million views.
And then what's the other one that you did the hack one with, where we were doing macro photography for the 3 shots or less series?
Oh, that one
has
was
like
great.
700,000. But it's also like the secret hack to photography, whatever.
Photography hack. The secret to aperture, shutter speed, ISO, and how to get the perfect exposure. 706,000.
At the end of the day, like it's not necessarily the secret, but you are breaking down how you got that perfect exposure, in 3 shots or less with aperture, shutter speed, ISO, etc.
People just don't. Other photographers just don't share this type of information, and that's the frustrating
there's
part.
Not a ton of teaching anymore in the photography community. I mean, we have Ted. Ted Forbes is more the art, obviously the art of photography. He does a lot of the photo book breakdowns and what inspires him, that kind of stuff. But in terms of like teaching, there's not a ton out there anymore, because unfortunately they don't get a lot of views.
Well, and this is why,
at least off the bat.
Well, right. I do think a lot of these videos will have more views in the future.
Yeah.
Like the how to get professional photos with a kit lens, Nikon D50-500 5-minute portrait with Bedia has 886,000 views from 2015. Those I stopped. We kind of haven't done any of those videos in a while.
Well, because they didn't all pop like that. You got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, they did.
There's a lot of long form videos that took us like a month to edit that have like 70,000 views, which I'm not saying that's bad, but it took years and years and years to get to that point. Now, there's definitely some that pop for sure, but not every one.
Steven, Nikon D3500 review, hands-on photo shoot, best camera kit for under $500. This is one of the first videos where I took the camera myself out into the world, and then we came back and we did a review downstairs at the table, and you used the footage that I captured. I went and did I think it was women's gymnastics.
But you have to keep in mind that title also is super clicky.
Well, Nikon
you could have done a
D3500
2-minute review at your desk and made it look like dog shit and barely said anything about the camera, and it'll still have 1 million views with a title like that.
I don't know, man. This is only a 17-minute video, and it's me going through the entire process, and we don't have no B-roll footage of me. It's just photos in the situation.
It's our current model of lens reviews, basically.
Oh, I did put a GoPro on top of the camera at that time.
It's essentially the same thing. We kind of took that model and ran with it for the lens reviews, where it's you going out on your own. We're simply showing photos and EVF footage and focus points and stuff like that. And it's so much easier and a much quicker turnaround time than trying to do a giant real world review for every product that comes out.
It's just you never know what videos are going to take off and get that many views. And the fact that video has so many views for a D3500 is insane. You just never know what's going to work.
The only issue now is nearly every video we put out is 20, 30 minutes. I mean, besides fixes, literally almost every video. Let's see, the last one is 28 minutes. The user guide obviously is an hour 53 minutes. The Z8 preview is 22 minutes. The 100 to 300 review is 29 minutes. Everything is like 30 minutes long these days, so it just takes a lot longer to edit and put out.
I try to be shorter.
And I don't stop you because I'm much more of a fan of a well-balanced, detailed review that might be a little longer in runtime, but unfortunately it just won't get, I think, instant views because that's a lot of time for people. 30 minutes.
You know who pisses me off, Steven?
Who?
I mean, just about every YouTube photo reviewer in this day and age.
No.
Yeah. Well, because I just feel that we do such a good job, and it just upsets me when you get like Kai Wong making a video where he's walking around doing nothing. He's never done anything. And it always frustrated me that Digital Rev TV back in the day got all the views because they just liked that he was funny and like a comedian, and then the photos just suck. And it's just like there's no photography skill there whatsoever. And that's the frustrating thing. Before you interrupt, Steven, it's just more frustrating because there's other creators on the YouTube sphere that you guys watch.
Put a lot of time and effort into it.
Their pictures just fucking suck. They do sample images that just suck. They don't go and shoot. They go take snapshots, and it's frustrating. And I hammer this home, and I know I don't have to like spike the football, but I know that when we go and do shit, that's why people watch our videos, whether they like me or they don't. I didn't say us because they all like you, but whether they like me or they don't like me, they're still coming back to see the results of us using the goddamn cameras.
With us, we'll take our time to break down every spec of the camera, and this is the first, you got to keep in mind, this is the first time the audience is ever seeing this camera. The audience is being introduced to this camera, and I think it's a very big deal to show off every new piece of the camera, whether that's product B-roll or menu recordings or whatever it may be. If I'm trying to look into that camera or lens, I want to know every little thing about it. I think we do a very good job with that, but the issue is, again, it ends up being a 30, 40-minute video half the time, but hopefully we earn their view and they come back every single time. That's my big thing.
More importantly, we actually showcase images being taken.
Of course.
Like actual photos in a situation. It's not just like a rock, a tree, a body of water.
And even video, I know that you don't like to harp on video specs at all, but I try and at least film B-roll with the camera itself or the actual, preview, hands-on preview, whatever it may be, in the studio with the camera. So at least people get a sense of, okay, here's what the footage looks like if you light it right and get it right. Or here's what the footage looks like if you're running and gunning, stuff like that. So we don't have to go into crazy detail about video because they can just see it simply on the screen and decide for themselves if they like it or not. And I try and film the back of the screen or compare it to another camera or the R5. I try to still include as much as I can about video, even though we tend to speak more about stills, obviously, with this channel.
Yeah, so on to some of the comments from this recent video. Photography basics, shutter speed, aperture, and ISO composition. It's just like this one guy, Jerome Fourmier, Fourmier. Oh, that's an N. Fournier. 12 years ago, I was watching your beginner guide, Understanding Manual Photography, which was, by the way, it's the Frontose photo guide to getting out of auto, guessing proper exposure in 3 shots, sharper images in low light. Fast forward today, I'm watching this, and I still appreciate it very much. And also, you made me discover James Blunt. That's a side note there. But the comments here are all like, this was one of my favorite videos that you've done. It's such a gift to receive a detailed lesson like this from an expert photographer, and the way you broke things down is fantastic. Thank you. Came for the guns, stayed for the lesson, because I used a very gunny thumbnail in that one. Thanks, Jared, for your commitment to sharing knowledge. I really love this type of content. It's like people absolutely love this content. It's just that it's not something that gets watched often, which is why we plan on doing the beginner guide. The next guide. It's not a beginner guide, but it's going to, we go back. I made the other one in 2011, right? We didn't release it till 2012. I think we started filming at the end of or early in 2011.
It was right before
2010.
I joined the Frontose photo team because I joined in like late 2012. And you had that out for about a year at that point. That was
that's a 3-hour video guide, and it's fantastic. Still, the fundamentals, the quality is garbage. What are you, Steven? What was that look?
What I don't like about that guide is there's a lot of talking head of you explaining like ISO and aperture. There's barely any showing. We
show it
to a certain extent.
Somewhat. I mean, we have examples, but It was shot on a 60 fucking D.
But you got to keep in mind, that's what you did back in the day. You would just sit at the computer and talk to the camera for 5 minutes straight and show like one picture, but then go on a 5-minute rant about aperture or ISO or whatever it may be. So I think we've obviously come a long way. And my goal for the future guide is to do full-on photo shoots, front to back, start to finish, and really show what you're thinking, what's in your head. You know, what gear are you bringing? Where are you shooting? Why are you shooting here? Who's your subject? Blah, 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 whatever it may be. And then editing too, obviously.
Yeah, that's why, you know, I'm probably going to break out the Z8 for the user guide.
Makes sense.
I mean, I could break out a Z6 or a Z7. Those just suck in terms of anything. The reason I want to break out the Z8 is it allows me the ability to plug the electronic viewfinder recorder back in and actually see my exposures change and see the shutter speed change. The whole point is people love this style of content, Steven.
And you can still go in like old school DSLR mode, you know, go to your 9-point dynamic area, whatever you used to do with your D3, D4, D5.
The point I want to make with the video guide is, again, it's not going to be about the gear. It's not about, I mean, I'm going to push glass and show people the difference, but there will be shoots where I go in with, I may break out a D3000 or a 3100 or a 3200 or some old DSLR and show people the possibilities with a 35-1.8 on it that you can get the job done. And the reason I'm making this and not putting it out as like free content is because I know that the people that watch this recent video love the content, and there's so much information in there when I break the stuff down that it's better off selling, being sold, because there's so much value in there that it's better than going to college, because I'm giving you everything that I know. I don't hold anything back. I give you as much information as I can based off of what I see, and I can only teach. I like to teach the fundamentals and the basics, and anybody that thinks you're going to get advanced techniques, there's no such thing as advanced techniques unless you get into like lighting and a whole different ball game in the studio.
There's definitely advanced techniques for sure.
Sure, but I don't consider it like advanced techniques with the stuff that I'm showing.
No,
I think it's beneficial to every photographer, whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, or even an advanced amateur, and potentially pros, just to see the workflow from start to finish. To me, that's the key, is to show everything from here's what I plan on doing. Like, here's my mindset going into it. Here's how I'm planning to do it. Here's the gear that I'm going to use. Then you actually see me on location in my fucking camera, changing exposures, showing you how it's being done, and then the wrap up after showing how I cull the images to show you why one image is a winner versus one image not being a winner. And I just keep talking about it. I'm tired of talking about it.
Why do you
I want to
sound
get
so
it done.
angry?
Because I'm angry today. It's in my notes. It says I am angry today.
Why?
It's not in my notes. Well, because you want to know why, Dr. Steven?
Yes, Jared,
Ask
please.
me how it makes me
Jared,
feel.
Woosa.
No, fuck your woosa.
Man,
I did talk to a therapist lady the other day for like a 10-minute consultation.
Yeah? Did you fire her too?
No, I didn't hire her.
Fire.
No, I never hired her because she was very nice, right? She was very nice, and my whole thing with the rapey is that I don't think I feel that I need the therapy. I really just feel like if I'm shut up, Steven. Shut up.
Everybody,
keep your mouth shut.
The people that need therapy say that.
Let me finish my discussion, my topic here. I just feel like when you go to these I think I know what I need to do. And when you go into these situations, you feel like it's just complaining. I don't want to complain. I don't want to sit there and talk and then have them be like, well, I mean, I get it. Maybe they would be able to point one thing out and that would be well worth it.
Exactly.
The nugget of information, maybe. I may come back to doing it. But I just don't want it to be to the point where I just want someone to be real. She didn't come across as real for me in the conversation. It was very, I'm super nice and I'm here and I'm accepting and you can tell me all about your penis.
Well, because they want you to open up. They want you to really say what's on your mind that you don't tell anybody. That kind of stuff.
Oh, really?
Be inviting.
Is that a turn on though, Steven? Like, hey, so the other day I was thinking about this and you were there and no, that's creepy, right?
You're talking about like Sopranos therapist.
Melfi.
Melfi, yeah.
Dr. Melfi. No, yeah. I just want real. And, you know, I said this to her. I'm like, yeah, I saw one therapist once before and I didn't like it. I just didn't feel it. Like she wasn't She's just asking dumb shit.
She wasn't
and it just
Dr.
didn't make
Melfi.
sense. No, what pissed me off about her, though, is at one point she was misbilling me. She thought that like everything was taken care of, but I should have been giving a certain copay. And then I told her, I asked her, I'm like, you double checked this. We verified this before starting. And like, this is why I specifically asked those questions. And she's like, well, we could discuss it during your time. And I was like, no. My time is for therapy. If you have a billing fucking issue, we talk about it from a business standpoint. And that's where I got really pissed off.
I do agree on that, for sure.
We should talk about it because you're obviously upset about it. I'm like, first off,
you're obviously upset about how much I charge. So let's schedule another session for that.
I'm like, first off, we don't talk about this during this isn't session time. This is business time. We have a discussion about business off the clock, off fucking hours. She also pissed me off because she always looked at the goddamn clock, and that always pissed me off. I've said it before. Second therapy guy, I got a guy. And my buddy Adam would go see this guy, different Adam, you don't know this Adam. He's like, yeah, he's good, he's helpful, he's very helpful. So I'm like, I'll try this guy out. So, I told you this before, like for 6 consecutive weeks, he's like, are you sure you're not gay? And it's just like, I'm like, dude, can you stop? I'm like, I got nothing wrong with you being bi or gay or whatever you are because you've had boyfriends.
Why would he think that, though?
He told me all about his life because I think he was hitting on me.
Really?
Yes, I think he was trying to hit on me, wanted me to get my eyes closed, open my mouth, slide something in there. I just think that's what he wanted. South Park. I was just thinking of South Park. I put the guy in my mouth. He didn't even charge me. He gave me money. He did really easy to get money, and all I do is suck.
Oh, my God.
But, this guy, it kind of felt like he did more of the talking, which is like fine, but it was disappointing. So basically, while I'm a little anxious today from that dream and feeling like I didn't get that good sleep. But on the flip side, the other thing that's on my mind quite a bit is that I have the feeling of not that much to look forward to. So I look at the week and I'm like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Steven's editing and stuff.
That's
Dan's
your issue.
editing and stuff. Yeah. And I'm back to that. And it's just, it happens all the time. And it's not like, well, yes, I have the freedom to go do whatever I want. Like I took my bike in to get checked for the 100.5 mile race ride.
When is that again, by the way?
June 11th or 12th. It's a Sunday. Cool. I took that in, and then I'm at the bike store because they opened at 11, and I'm watching. People are riding by on their bike. It's a Tuesday at 11. I'm like, these people are out for a ride, and I wouldn't enjoy that. Like, I like riding on the weekend, but if I was to ride at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. during a Tuesday, I'd feel like I'm doing something wrong personally.
But that's the issue, though, I think, is you can do that.
I can, but I don't want to because, again, it's alone.
Or is it
and
you,
I don't
you
like
want
the
to,
alone.
but you're not going to feel like you're working.
Well,
I feel like
I'm wasting time. I feel like I'm wasting time to waste time. And this is what I would tell the therapist, Steven, and hear what she has to say. But it just sounds like complaining. I'm like, schedule things. But when I'm away, Steven, when I'm in Paris, if you didn't know I was in Paris, when I was in Paris, I was fine. Like, I didn't sit on my phone at all.
Well, because
right?
that was your quote unquote, vacation time. So
vacation. It wasn't.
Again, like if it's during a work day from 9 to 5 or something, you're like, I can't do anything. But if it's my vacation time in Paris, I can let loose and be like, oh, I can do whatever I want. It's not a big deal. That's what
as long as something's planned. But my issue is the feeling that I have nothing to look forward to because I don't have anything really in the books. I have some projects that are long form projects that are things to work on that I'm waiting to hear back on that would take up a lot of time, most likely. I just don't like the downtime at all. I like the feeling of having full days nonstop. I do not like having 35 minutes, an hour here where it's like, well, what am I supposed to do in between this and that? I like going home. I go do that yoga. Then I've got dinner, or I like that I've got bowling, or I've got something. But it's not like I look forward to the bowling, but it's like the week I don't have much going on.
Well, I also feel like your life revolves around your work, where most people's work revolves around their life. I feel like that's a big thing with you.
Well, I also have this whole rinse and repeat thing. It's all the same every day. And I know this isn't just me. Everybody knows that. Like, you wake up,
well, you don't like
go
change.
Through the same routines.
Yeah.
I'm okay with change. I went to a different place for lunch on Monday. I went
you
to
eat pretty much
75.
the same thing every day.
I do.
And you do the same thing every day.
But they're closed on Monday.
You wear the same shirt every day.
I do.
Yeah.
And I have 3 pairs of pants numbered 1, 2, and 3.
There you go.
And I'm on pant number 1 today, if you didn't know.
You're not a big fan of change.
I don't mind change, but I just don't like inactivity. And people are like, well, you could go travel. The problem with me traveling is that I kind of need someone to put together an entire itinerary, or I won't do anything. I will get there and be like, well, what am I supposed to do? This is terrible, even though I'm in some cool city.
You could do the research yourself and figure it out yourself.
I don't want to do the research.
Well, you should.
I'm not good at it. I know what I'm good at, and that's not what I'm good at. I want someone to like interview me and then figure out a plan that I won't like anyway, but at least it's something to do. But that's why I don't go away by myself, because it's just like, I get it. I mean,
yeah, going away by yourself is a little rough. Definitely.
The other thing, I'd like to go to Japan, so I reached out to Canon to see if they're going to do a trip anytime soon, or if I just take care of the trip myself, can they just plan on me going there and taking care of me? If I go to Japan, I want a tour guide that speaks the languages, the language and my language, and I want to see the old and I want to see the new, and I want to just experience it, right? And so that I'd like to do. But the other thing to bring up, and then we'll get into talking about camera stuff, being that we're almost over with the show.
Well, your therapy session's almost up, so just
it
FYI.
Is almost my therapy. Did
you just look at the clock the whole time?
You motherfucker. You motherfucker, Steven. Oh, look at the goddamn clock. I said something to this woman.
Jared, you're gay. Just admit it.
They got no problem if you're gay. I'm not gay. That's fine.
That's
it's
so
not
odd.
a problem.
So odd.
You know what? Speaking of gay, I wanted to come up with a transgender dreidel to go with Manny the Menorah and Dickie the dreidel, but I got to come up with something else for next year. But that was because a friend asked something. But I was listening to Pivot podcasts, Kara Swisher, Scott Galloway, love it. They had Chasen Buttigieg. That's Pete Buttigieg's husband, which I've conversed with on Instagram before. And he was talking, and you know, he's obviously gay because he's married to Pete Buttigieg, and he's always been gay. But he made an awesome statement that puts gayness in such a perspective for the people that are like, if you go to a drag show, or if you watch gay people kiss on TV, or gay people engaging in anything, that somehow it's going to make you gay. He goes, if that shit makes you gay, then why aren't I straight? Because all I did when I grew up was watch movies about straight people and love, rom-coms. It was all straight this, straight that, straight everything, manliness in every aspect that you turned around in front of you, yet he's still gay. So he's like, if you want to play by those rules, then why aren't I straight? I think that was a pretty good perspective thing. They like, you guys are worried about drag shows. You're worried about this other bullshit that somehow a straight person is going to be turned gay, when in fact, gay people are fucking gay. And look, I can say it right there. I can say gay people are fucking gay because they're gay. Like, that's a time I can say it without getting in trouble, because gay people are gay. They're born that way. It just is what it is. They're not going to be turned straight because they watch straight porn. You're not going to turn gay because you watch gay porn, Steven. The last thing I'll say about the being not angry, but you hear imposter syndrome?
Oh, yeah.
And I think people go into this all the time where they just feel like they don't fit or they don't deserve where they are. And I think everybody has that regardless of your success. I think the most successful actors and actresses have imposter syndrome.
Just some people hide it better than others, yeah.
Well, and I feel it when I'm in a room with people. I'm like, do I belong in this room? Even though I'm successful and I'm good at what I do, I'm like, do I belong here? And I get over it real quick, but it's still in the back of my head that it's like, do I belong in this situation? Have I done enough, or do I earn it? And I always feel like I'm lesser than the other people in the room sometimes, just because. But they all probably think the same thing of themselves. I just think you need to own it.
You do, but there's a difference between overconfidence and knowing it.
Or are you trying to say something about me right now?
No.
You always say like, oh, you're so confident. Oh, blah, blah, blah. You pat yourself on the back about, oh, you got a good photo. And I tell you, I'm damn good at what I do. And you're like, you shouldn't really say that.
Humble, Jared. Humble and modest.
I am humble.
Okay.
I'm confidently humble about my work.
Walking
good.
around like your shit don't stink.
I don't say that.
But you act like it.
You got to act the part because you got to believe in yourself. If you didn't believe in yourself.
Like I said, There's people that they hide imposter syndrome much better than the others, and I think you're one of those.
Okay.
In a good way. I'm saying that in a good way.
All right, can we move on now,
I wish
Steven?
I had the confidence that you have. I really do.
All right.
It could be good and bad.
You want to see a therapist? I know one. Is this guy who may ask you if you're gay every time. All right, let's move on to some camera gear stuff that we said we'd talk about. Sony dropped the, whatever the hell that is, the ZV-1 Mark II.
Yes.
Canon dropped an R100 and 28 millimeter pancake lens. There's a Canon rumor of a 200 to 500. And there was also the R1 supposed video from the wild where people were asking if it was the R1. Let's start with that real fast.
Okay.
It was not the R1. There's no way in hell so basically, there was the G7 summit is going on in Hiroshima, Japan. There was a video that a guy took of his screen of a photographer getting caught on camera, shooting a camera that looks awfully weird, like a shape that we've never seen before with a Canon.
There's absolutely no way they would allow that to happen. Allow someone to go to that G7 summit with a brand new unreleased camera. No way.
You would be shooting in the wilds of Japan.
Exactly.
Where
on your own,
no one can
in the
can
safari or something. Yeah.
But I just think that, yes, the camera looked weird, and I think it all has to do with angles. I think that the guy filming his screen was filming at an angle. I think the guy getting filmed in real life was with a zoom lens, which compresses things, and it was at an angle, and so it ends up looking weird. It's either an R3 or it's an R5 with a grip on it. You just can't tell that it has a grip, that there's no, line where the grip is. And then I just can't believe that Sony Alpha Rumors is like the one that starts posting this stuff.
Well, I mean, they posted the price about the Z8. Remember that? That was factual. Yeah. No, but the big giveaway for me that it wasn't an R3 or an R1 was the fact that it didn't have any function buttons, at least that I could see. And also, they kept mentioning, at least Sony Alpha Rumors, that it's probably an R1 because of the top where the EVF is and how it's a different angled EVF shape and all of that. But it had a cage of some sort. So with the angle,
that was the lens, that was possibly the shoulder strap over the hot shoe. I just don't know why the guy would have had a cage. I look at the line under it. It looks like it's his camera strap because it looked like it was folded over the top. It didn't look like there was a cage on the side at all to me.
I thought it was a cage, and I'm saying like when you're filming a cage, if you're like looking over top, the EVF could still be tall, but you just can't tell because of the angle it was filmed at, because the cage is covering it. So it could still be an R3, but again, I think the lack of function buttons gave that away. Probably an R5 with a grip, if I had to guess. But again, there's no way they would allow that camera to be out in the wild like that.
No, not where there's a potential to be seen. So
the R1's going to be an Olympic camera. They're going to be giving it to sports guys. They're not going to be giving it to like a photojournalist. I really doubt that.
I hope that I get one though to play with.
But you're a big sports guy. That makes sense.
I'm a photojournalist.
I think your two top genres of photography are photojournalistic style and sports, right?
Just because I have access. That's really the reason I shoot the baseball.
I do think you enjoy shooting sports too, especially hockey, right?
I like going out there. I like hanging out at the field. Yeah. I like being around the people, and you like sports. That makes me feel better.
You're a big sports guy, yeah.
No, I'm not a big sports guy.
Well,
I like
more than me, I guess.
Sports.
I couldn't care less about sports.
Yeah, I like playing sports and I like being active. I just do not live and die by the Philly sports teams. Like when I was a kid, I was all about the Flyers, and when they lost, I would be really upset. That used to be my whole life, and then you realize that there's an actual life out there, and sports shouldn't affect it that much.
I totally agree.
So let's talk about this ZV-1 Mark II. You got some basic specs for us?
Well, I have some specs of like what they added and what's different.
Because it's the same camera.
It's essentially the same camera in terms of the image processor, the 1-inch stacked sensor. It now has an 18 to 50 millimeter f1.8 to f4 variable aperture lens though, where before it was the 24 to 70 f1.8 to 2.8 lens. Now, if you need the reach, that other lens is much better in my opinion, but what they're obviously marketing this as a vlogging camera, this 18 to 50 is what we've been asking all along. That was our main complaint with the original ZV-1 was that, it's 24 millimeter lens on the wide end, and then you throw in active mode stabilization and you're looking at like 28 millimeters, which, unless you had a giant selfie stick, is not a great vlogging camera.
I have a giant selfie stick.
Giant guns like Jared.
No. Not talking about my guns. I'm talking about that super long Insta360 selfie stick that's 20 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet long.
That is giant.
It is a giant stick. And it's light, too. It's carbon fiber.
The issue now with the 18 to 50 is, since it is such a compact body, they said during our briefing, the engineers, to make that small and compact, they had to get rid of something, which was the optical stabilization, this optical steady shot.
Stupid,
which,
man.
To have a vlogging camera, there needs to be IBIS, in my opinion. Now, it does have electronic stabilization, electronic active mode, which is good enough. And when it does crop in, it's now like a 21 millimeter or whatever lens. So I do think it's good enough, but my whole thing, every time they come out with these new compact cameras, is it that much better than a phone? Is it that much better than a smartphone at the end of the day?
Well, I think Tony and Chelsea Northrup, because I wanted to see who made videos, they actually did that camera versus an iPhone, and he zoomed in and showed, how much better the 1-inch sensor was from the Sony versus the Apple.
The 1-inch is still going to be better, but do people really care unless you're zooming in like that? At the end of the day.
Well, that's the thing is, most people, it's like the V10 from Canon. Do people need to go spend $430 for something that there's not really a perceived value beyond your iPhone, even though it's got a 1-inch sensor and the quality of video is going to be better, but people just have the ease of use of pulling their phone out? So there's that. And then we didn't drop a video on this Sony vlogging camera. One, because I felt there was other stuff for us to focus on that's more important.
I agree.
Two, the people, you could go see who put videos out. None of them did well. They're not going to do well.
Now, the ZV-1 did well for us in the long run. It's got over 200,000 views, along with the comparison that we did with it. But that was also the first of its kind, so I don't know if a Mark II would have done that well.
This is like the 17th vlogging camera in the interim since that's happened.
It's nonstop. Every time we finish a ZV preview, another one comes out. Now, the E1 was at least a really interesting new camera.
That's the one I took with the bowling, right?
Correct, yeah.
That was very nice. Nice quality on that.
Yeah, I mean,
and interchangeable.
A7S3 guts, essentially. So, but back to the specs of this camera, they did at least keep the built-in 3-stop ND, which is great. However, I just think when you're filming in broad daylight, you're going to need at least a 6-stop ND, so it's not really usable.
I used it. I needed to use it. I used it indoors sometimes because there was light coming in.
Sure, but when you're dealing with harsh sunlight at high noon, I think you're still going to be cranking up that shutter speed a good amount.
I had to do that too because I was filming my nephew at the Lamborghini dealership.
Yep.
So when we do a video, I may just do a video with both the Sony and the V10.
And similar to the Z8, for example, where we were kind of upset that didn't have really any updates. Same with this. They still have the same 4K 30. They didn't update the frame rate at all. And then they even actually took away frame rates in terms of the slow motion frame rates, the S&Q modes. They used to have that crazy 960 frames per second in 1080.
It looked terrible anyway.
Yeah, unless you stayed at 240, anything above that looked like crap because they were sampling such a small part of the sensor. But this one only does 1080 120. They don't even have the 240 option anymore, which was almost like a 1-to-1 readout. Also, the screen still dims when you're shooting in 4K. That was such a big problem because when you're outside, you can barely even see it.
There's no EVF.
There's no EVF, exactly. So if it had an EVF, I wouldn't mind that much. And why don't they give it the RX100 EVF? That little pop-up one.
Probably size, but I love that on the call that we had.
Body.
Well, I love on the call with them that they were pushing the whole, it's a stack sensor, which is great. It's a stack sensor. We love stack for shooting.
Sure.
At speed and readout. But they're like, it's going to be great for stills. And I'm like, does it have an EVF? They're like, no. I'm like, then it's not great for stills. We're not even going to talk about stills.
I love that. Every time on the briefing when they mention, this is why it's great. And it's like, but it doesn't have this feature, so it almost makes it completely pointless.
Right. I just think these cameras are overkill. I think they have too much stuff in for the people that are going to buy them that don't need all these bells and whistles. On the flip side, there was a YouTuber by the name of Kai Wong who called it the perfect vlogging camera. No question mark, no exclamation point,
definitive.
Question mark. He just was definitive in calling it that, which is like, it's not, there's no such thing as the perfect vlogging camera. And if there was, this isn't it. The perfect vlogging camera, that ZV-E1.
I would say that ZV-E1 is definitely probably the best vlogging camera in my opinion for that price point.
That camera's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. Especially again if you're a one-man band. And also I saw a lot of the reviews like Petapixels and Gerald Undun's, and the audio, the 3-way audio that they have just sounded absolutely terrible, especially Petapixels. But I feel like when I looked back at your footage, it didn't sound that bad. And you probably had it on auto too, I assume, right?
I did. I left the auto without the windscreen. If you use I have the dead cat on top, but I turn off the windscreen,
the wind reduction, whatever.
The wind reduction, because that
maybe,
thing just
maybe they had that on
it.
because it sounded absolutely terrible, especially petapixels. But again, I feel like yours kind of still sounded nice and bold and big and full, but theirs sounded like they just completely cut out the low end.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, but Gerald & Dunn's also sounded pretty shitty too. Not nearly as bad. But again, ours just seemed a little different. Now, they don't have the AI chip in this camera, obviously, so it's not the three-way digital AI where it'll automatically switch from front to back and all of that. You can set it to rear, front, or all directional if you want to, which is always nice. But at the end of the day, it's a ZV-1 Mark II with basically a new lens for the most part. A lot of the other updates are very minor. They did give it the new menu and all of that, obviously, but...
I looked at The Verge. I sent you a video of the person reviewing it for The Verge.
Oh, yeah.
And they said they love the button that they can press to give them that wide open shutter speed to get that depth of field or something. Right? Is that along the lines of what they said?
Something like that. They meant aperture, obviously, but they misspoke and said shutter.
Look, I get misspeaking in videos. I do it all the time.
Sure. Oh,
but someone's got to catch that mistake in editing.
Well, and exactly. Usually it's me or Dan catching that mistake.
Yeah, you said open the shutter speed to 1.8. Like, shit like that just makes you sound really dumb, and it makes you it like nullifies everything else in the video because it just makes you sound like you have no clue what you're talking about.
And again, I'm sure they just misspoke, but I'm just very surprised someone like, The Verge,
it's got to get caught.
Didn't spot that. Yeah.
Which is sometimes why I get upset at Dan when he doesn't catch certain things.
Well, which is usually why it goes through me first before we post it, because I tend to catch those things that he doesn't. Anything that's more technical, Dan tends to gloss over and not realize. He does more of the general assemble and basic edit, and then I'll kind of take over from there.
Do you want to hit us with the R100 specs, a camera that we didn't expect at all?
So... Speaking of, do you need this type of camera or just use a smartphone? This is another one of those cameras. It's a $479 body only R100 that we didn't know about until the day before or 2 days before, right? We actually didn't get briefed on this until
2 days ago. We had a briefing.
Very last minute, which is fine.
But I questioned Canon again because, as always, Europe had some not saying I needed a hands-on with it, but if they sent me this camera a couple weeks ago, it would have given me something to do to take it to the Phillies game to show you that you can get the job done even with this piece of shit, low-end $479 camera. When I say piece of shit, I don't mean that it sucks. I just mean it's a piece of shit. It's the lightest and smallest piece of shit they've ever made.
Well, and adding to that,
R-mount.
So this is basically the M50 Mark II in the RF mount. Now, I was under the impression that the R50 was the M50 Mark II because when we got briefed on that during the trip, they kept comparing it to the M50 Mark II, and that also has, I believe, the same sensor as the M50 Mark II. So I assumed that was the actual replacement for the R lineup. Now, they're saying this one is the true replacement for the M50 Mark II, and it literally has the same guts, same everything, just in an RF-style body, and basically the R50 body for the most part. But
I just think it's a lower end. It's just even lower end than that.
And my concern is that it's a Digic 8 processor, which we're talking about, 6 years old at this point.
But it still has dual pixel AF for those stills.
For example,
but it's not going to be as good as the R8.
Exactly. I just shot the RP, which is with the most updated firmware. My sister is using that camera, and I will say, I forgot how slow the focusing is on that camera, even the dual pixel AF. Now, that's also the Digic 8 processor, but it's powering a full frame sensor, so obviously it's doing a lot more work. But yeah, man, that thing is laggy, terribly laggy. And the other issue with this one, just like the RP and the M50 Mark II, is if you're in 4K, it's using contrast detection, not the dual pixel AF phase detection. So
in 1080, you can get that.
Essentially, that rules this camera a 1080p camera to shoot with, which is fine for the demographic, but the 4K is more of a marketing thing because it's really not usable unless you're a talking head sitting at your desk or something like that. Now, the biggest issue is the fixed non-touchscreen. When you're going after a smartphone demographic market and you're not giving them a rotatable, vari-angle touchscreen, and they're used to touching every single, iPad or iPhone or Samsung phone, whatever it may be, I think that's a huge issue.
I'm fine with the not flip out and rotatable. Like, I'm fine with that. The fact that you can't touch the screen, There's no LCD to a touch screen. It makes no sense in an aperture camera, like you just said, because the people coming to use this are the ones that have always used cell phones and know how to swipe and tap and do all of that.
Everything's touchable.
Flip out and rotate, I can live without. I could totally live without that for the most part.
But again, like the M50 Mark II had a flip out rotatable screen, so it's a downgrade.
They needed to cut price to $479.
I do get it, but I almost think at the end of the day, this camera was almost not even needed. Now, I do understand that $200 is a lot of money for someone that's looking for that $500 price point. But you start adding on kits with this lens, with this camera, it's $600. Yeah, $599 with the actual 18 to 55 kit. But then 45. You do the dual kit, and you're looking at $830.
Yeah, when you start doing dual kit, but again, it's an 18 to 45 kit lens now.
Oh, it's 18 to 45, not 55?
Yeah, no, not 55.
Okay.
The way I look at this is that it's a Costco buy, it's a Best Buy,
1,000%. Yep.
It's a Walmart buy.
They're gonna sell them like crazy, like hotcakes. Yeah.
It's that thing where someone comes in and like they'll have a nice display and it will show nice videos and nice photos of what you can do with
this camera.
Yeah, professional results, and they're gonna sell them because someone's gonna be like, you know what? I'll spend $500 or whatever when it's on sale, like $549 or $539 with the kit. They'll buy it, or they'll put together a Costco kit that has a bag, a lens, a memory card, a battery, and call it a day, and be like for $500 and $612 special savings, and someone's gonna be like, great, I could do video of my kids, I could do photos, and I think that's the camera. I think this is like a camera for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Like we could put out, we're going to put out a user guide for it.
Oh yeah.
Because this is the type of video that someone who has no idea about photography is going to search and find us, and hopefully, whatever. But I want to get it in my hand so I can take it to the Phillies game.
And this is definitely the camera that gets you into other cameras. It gets you into then the R8 when you're upgrading, then into maybe the R6 Mark II, then the R5, then who knows, maybe you're even going for the R3 one day. I don't know. But like me, for example, I started with the Canon XT or T1i, whatever that, like right after the Rebel XT, when that came out. That was like my first starter camera. And then eventually I upgraded to, all the way to the 5D Mark IV. And, if anyone wants to buy that, feel free to reach out to me. And
yeah, because your barber didn't want it this time.
But now I'm using the R5, so I've updated so many times, and I think this is a good starting camera for someone trying to go that route, or just someone that wants to just take some better pictures of their family, like you said. Now, I do think they do need something like that D3500 kit that used to sell like crazy back in the day, where it was paired with the 18 to 55, the 70 to 300, and you got the D3500 for like $500. That's such a
different technology, man.
I agree.
And inflation.
And, they didn't mark it down to $500 until a couple years later. But if this kit becomes $500 in 2-3 years, it really is a great value for that person upgrading from a smartphone just for better family photos or whatever it may be.
It does shoot, I think it's 6. I asked them because we didn't get all the details because they were pretty light on the details.
Vague. Yeah,
I think it's like 6 frames a second, but with single shot or servo, like not continuous autofocus.
It's basically like the RP, like 3 frames a second servo, 6 one shot or something, really slow.
I like the challenge of taking this out into the world and getting pictures. Now, will I throw a 600 f4 on it? You better believe it. Will I throw a 400 2.8 on it? You better believe it. Will I use the kit?
Use the kit,
I will use the kit. I will use the kit. I will take it out to the Phillies game with the 18 to 45 shit lens and the 55 to 250
something
kit?
Like that. Yeah, I think that's the RF lens.
Steven, I'm going to crush it. I'll take it to a day game so I can cheat a little bit.
What you'll do is you'll use the 55 to 250 for like 2 minutes, and then you'll use your like 600 f4 for like the rest of the game.
I'll take the challenge. I'll take the kid out to the Phillies game, be a fan, sit in the stands, go around taking pictures, and show that you can get good results.
And that's what I always say to you, like, try to do both. Try to take the shitty lens route and then throw some pro glass on there. Show them the best of both worlds. If you have the money, you can upgrade to this. Do the whole glass thing, just like we did with the R8 preview. We started out with the lower end prime lenses, the 1.8 primes, and then we updated to the 50-1.2, 85-1.2, all of that. But at least you get to see the difference and why we recommend updating to, the higher end prime glass. The one last thing I want to touch on with this specific camera and going back to the touchscreen is they did give it an EVF, which I'm very surprised about. However,
you're right.
However, I almost think I would have rather had a touchscreen than an EVF, because
No,
I look at someone like my
can't.
sister, again, who's using the RP, and she's literally pulling a Manny Ortiz and holding
you
it out
should
and
slap
taking
her.
pictures like that. But that's
You
what
should
she's
slap
used
her.
to.
She's your sister. You should slap her. You should walk right up to her and go, no, no.
But again, that's who this camera's marketed towards. People that are just casually
Sure.
taking photos. And I really don't think a lot of people are going to be utilizing that EVF as much as I would recommend utilizing it.
Well, let me say this. I did a mentorship call the other day with a lady,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going through her images, and for someone who was she had a friend sold her an R6, and she had a 24 to 105. She had the 85 f2, the 16 2.8, and then she had a 15 to 35 2.8. I'm like, well, you don't need the 16 2.8 if you've got a 15 to 35.
Wow.
So
the 1535 is an expensive piece of glass.
That's what I said. She didn't really know what she had. But from her pictures, she had the beginning of the potential for good stuff. Was she in auto ISO and full auto? The answer was yes.
Sure.
And I don't care when people are just starting out. I say that all the time. Just go shoot and enjoy, and you can learn the rest later. But I was like, how did you end up doing X? I'm like, your settings are right here. Your focus should be right because it has the greatest focus on it, the IAF. But it has some slight blur and the angles are off. She's like, oh, I used touch to focus to take the picture on the back of the screen. So I'm like, well, you do realize that you took your hand off the camera, so now it's not stable. You touched to where you want it to shoot, so it's going to be crappy. It's going to try and focus, and you're going to be moving when you're taking the picture. Even with the right settings, it's going to be terrible. And I'm like, how are you shooting? She's like, I'm holding it out. I'm like, well, you should get punched in the face, but don't do that again. This is how you do it. And I showed her on the camera, because the mentorship call is on camera, and I'm like, this is how you should be holding it. Your hand goes underneath the lens. Your finger goes on the shutter. You tuck your elbows. You do not ever use the touchscreen for focus or to take pictures. This is so much better. And her reply back to me was like, you saved me months of like discovery just with this phone call.
It's such a simple thing, but will help your photography immensely.
That's the whole point of nuggets of information that you can give someone. If you can take away one solid piece of information, and there's going to be more than one, but even if there's one, it's going to save you so much time. I just think back to me shooting film at 13 years old and how many years I struggled in auto modes. I think a decade. It took me a decade to figure out aperture priority, just to get into aperture priority. And then to get out of aperture priority was a whole nother ball game. But in the day and age of film, I would take my roll of 36 over like a 3-week period, get it processed and developed, and then not know what my settings were. So how I could make corrections, I had to try and remember what I did.
Yeah.
So anyway, you have such a leg up today with all the resources that exist.
I completely agree. And back to how she was shooting with the actual touch shutter.
Yeah.
Now, my sister doesn't do that. At least she's holding it out and, using the actual front button
that's
shutter.
You punched her.
But yeah, I think
it's okay. She's
at
your
least
sister.
She has two hands, I guess is what I'm saying. Not just one hand stabilized. Because I think the touch shutter, is that on by default? I don't think it is. Right?
Yeah, I think in some cases it's on by default in those crappy cameras. I don't know anymore. There's so much in the way of gear. Now, I want them to send this camera because I want to use it, and I do think that we will benefit in the long run by making some content about it.
I'm curious if Sony's finally going to release an APS-C camera now, because it's been quite some time, and Canon's just been rolling out these other cameras. And I almost think Canon's lineup is starting to get a little convoluted.
Canon has this thing, dude. They have this thing that they know who they market to and what they want, and they know the numbers that they're like, okay, if we make this $479 camera for this specific market and this selling channel, that it's going to be super beneficial to getting people into the ecosystem and then long run stepping them up. Do I agree that there's a lot of cameras? Yeah, the answer is there's a lot of freaking cameras.
Yeah.
But they're hitting a price point. The fact that it's $200 different than the R50 is
obviously me
it's
and
still
you,
a lot of money in the $400. If you're spending $479 for $679, that's a big difference.
But at the same time, that target market they're trying to hit, that $500 price point is like the max that people are trying to go. That's true. Or $600 with the kit.
Or maybe it's $600 under $700 now because of inflation.
Because
and
the second you add a lens
else
onto the R50, you're looking at like $700-800 or even more, I think. So that's when it gets pretty expensive. But $500-600, I feel like that's most people are like, I'm willing to spend that, and that's it.
All right, real quick, the 200 to 500, because I didn't want to leave you guys hanging on that rumor. They had a 100 to 400, sorry, a 200 to 400 with a built-in teleconverter, which gave you a 560 at f5.6. My problem with these built-in teleconverters, and talking to a lot of the pro shooters who used them, said they were awesome for like the first couple months when they had the 200 to 400 Canon, and same thing with the Nikon. After a while, they felt that it just fell out of alignment and things just weren't sharp.
Really?
And so they hated having the teleconverter built in. And I was thinking about this with the 100 to 300 2.8, how I was like, well, it's just missing a teleconverter. Well, is it? Because the only way that you benefit from it is beyond 300. If you were put in a teleconverter and you're shooting at the 100 end of the zoom range, and that 1.4 converter is 140 millimeters, you're now at 140 millimeters at f4, whereas you didn't need to be there. The only benefit was all the way out at 300, giving you a 420 millimeter lens.
Or if you want a 2x converter, you're looking at 600. I mean, that's a nice bump up.
Yeah, but then you lose the quality. You get at 5.6, and that's why
those sports shooters don't care.
They do when like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if you get the shot, because no one's going to be like, other than me, I wish it was shot this way. That's why I use the primes. The majority, that goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning. I'm just very picky on that. But the 200 to 500 does away with the 1.4 converter. At least the rumor says this, that there won't be a 1.4 converter, and all you're missing is 560. But the 560 would be at 5.6. So you're at 500 at f4
all the way through,
which is going to be tremendous, because then they won't even make a 500 f4, which is a lens that they used to make. That was a very sought-after, popular birding lens. Now you'll have a 200 to 500 f4. That will be a solid lens that's going to be like $14,000 for them to sell.
See, but I still think they need that. No, they have the 100 to 500. I was going to say the lower end version of that, but they do have the 100 to 500, which is like a $2,000-$3,000 lens, right?
Yeah.
Because Sony has that 200 to 600, 5.6 to 6.3, and I mean, Nikon still has that 400 4.5, which I think is such a great small lens.
That's a great lens.
Yeah, it really is
for what it is.
Yep.
It is. So I know I have more notes here, but we're going to push that stuff to next week. We didn't even talk about some of these notes. If you want to call us and text us and yell at us for going off the rails, and by us, I mean me, 313-710-9729. That's 313-710-9729. We really appreciate you guys listening. The numbers are good. We like the numbers that we're seeing. And it's interesting. We talk about, do you put up a YouTube video of this, and you were listening to Colin and Samir, who I try not to listen to anymore because it upsets me, but they were talking about their watch times only being pretty
30%
shitty.
roughly on YouTube, and they said on Spotify and Apple Podcasts it was close to 80 to 90% in terms of watch time, listen time.
This is something you listen to
while you're doing other activities.
Right. If the podcast was visually interesting and important and showed something like a TV show, people would sit there and watch it. But they're not going to sit there and watch your audio to the full max. Correct.
And when we did live stream RAWtalk, it was more visual based because we did have visuals for the photo news and for the new cameras and stuff like that. But there was a lot more pre-production involved. But we are a year in now, right? This is episode 52.
Oh,
full year.
It is. This is episode 52. This is a full year. You then missed episode 2.
Just keep rubbing it in every time.
And then Vanessa, I had Manny on, never having Manny on again, Walmart Drake. And then Vanessa was on after. But whatever, 52 weeks of this, Stephen.
Yeah.
And we've built it to a nice place. We get roughly, in the first week, anywhere from 7,000 to 8,000 downloads, which is good. And the goal is to be at 10,000. And that's a lot of people listening.
And usually after 30 to 60 days, we're looking at like 12,000, 13,000. So it's pretty good.
Which is great. And if you've noticed, we haven't played a jingle that leads us into a plug in a long time.
I know. I haven't gotten paid in a while, man. 12%.
There's a reason for that, Stephen. not you not getting paid, but there is a reason for not doing the plugs in this. I just feel... I mean, yes, we get the amount of money that we would get paid for it it's not terrible for doing a plug. It's just not like, well, then though, if you do think about it, if we did 52 plugs at this price, it would be almost like a salary for someone. So maybe I should consider doing it. Yeah. And if you guys would listen, like we try to do a 60-second plug, maybe I'll try. It's just, it's just hard. I just don't want to take people out with dumb, stupid plugs.
I think people skip them regardless, but at the end of the day, it would make it more worth it for you to do the podcast.
You know what? It would be beneficial for us that if we did do it, and if we did 52 of them and we had 52 plugs, that maybe we get a big sponsor for that would split it out over a year
long.
And
yeah.
Maybe that would make sense to get that amount of money, and that could pay for someone. And you guys understand that, you may not benefit totally from an ad there, but you are benefiting from an ad there because that money allows us to do other stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Like buy Lamborghinis and properties.
You said it, not me.
You were thinking it.
No, but in reality, it helps us maybe bring somebody else on, paying me
which
more
then
than 12%.
might bring you an audio video, might bring you a video podcast or something. You never know.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to end it? I got to go get ready for the Phillies game, which means I actually brought my lunch, so I've got to heat it up.
Well, let's wrap it up. And as usual, if you can leave us a written review on Apple Podcasts, that would be great. 5 stars is always preferred. Also on Spotify, it really does help out the channel and the podcast. Thank you, guys. I'm going to sign off, Steven. Sounds good. Thank you, guys. This is episode number 52 of RAWtalk, where we talk about whatever the hell we want. Jared, PolinFrontosPhoto.com. See ya. Bye.